On today's episode, I'm going to show you how to make one of my favorite steak recipes. It's quick, it's easy, and it'll melt in your mouth. You don't want to miss this. So I have some beautiful ribeye steaks over here. Now you'll notice that I'm leaving them out on the counter, and that's because I want them to get a little warm. I want them to go towards room temperature, because when you're cooking steaks and you're searing them especially, it's very important that the inside of the meat is not too cold. Okay, this is going to give you a really exact way to measure whether it's medium rare, whether it's medium, whether it's well done, is if the inside temperature of the meat is not too cold. Okay, and I'll get into that later on in this episode, but for now I'm going to show you one of my favorite things to do with steak, and that is to make a beautiful green pepper chimichurri, which is a sauce that has green pepper, it's got garlic, we have basil, all sorts of fresh herbs, and you mix that with some extra virgin olive oil, and let me tell you, it's quite something. Okay, so let's get started over here. I have my food processor set up. Okay, and I'm just going to keep putting these ingredients in my food processor, and then we're going to make sort of a little sauce to go with this. Okay, now the recipe doesn't actually call for chives, but I had some chives in my fridge, and I want to use them up. So, cooking is a really creative thing, so you want to add and take away from recipes and sort of make them your own. All right, so here we have some nice fresh chives, so that goes into my food processor. Okay. Then we have some green bell peppers. All right. Now these are going in the processor, so I'm not going to make them into too big of chunks, just small enough so they get in their blades really easily and they can get chopped up in there. All right, so just some rough cuts. Okay, so we have our fresh basil over here. I'm just going to rip off the stems. That'll go in there. I have about 4 or 5 garlic cloves. Now to get into these, you want to put your knife on top of them, put your body weight over it, and just crush the cloves. That way the paper actually separates from the garlic. Okay, so just shake these out. There we go. Okay, these guys go in the food processor. I have some scallions or green onions, however you want to call them. I'm going to cut the root ends off. Again, roughly chop these into the food processor. They go. My dried parsley. Why dried parsley? Well, because I didn't have fresh parsley, so dried parsley works just as well. All right, now I'm going to have to put in some fresh ground pepper, as much as you like. Okay, a little bit of salt. And finally, some extra virgin olive oil. Now you should always get extra virgin olive oil in a tin, just like this, because olive oil is light sensitive. So when you buy olive oil in a glass bottle or a clear plastic bottle, it actually degrades with the light. So sometimes when you buy it off the store shelf, it's already rancid. All right, so the best thing to do, small tins, will keep that olive oil as fresh as possible. All right. So we have all our ingredients in here for a chimichurri. Now all we got to do is put this lid on and make it into a sauce. So the chimichurri is done. Now I'm going to take the lid off, and I'm just going to transfer this into my little bowl here. Okay, I have my spatula, and here we go. Now I'm going to take my steaks and chimichurri over to my hot skillet, and this recipe will be ready to eat before you know it. Now I'm going to make these steaks on a really hot skillet. Okay, so this is one of my favorite cooking instruments. It's a cast iron skillet, and I have it seasoned just right. And what does that mean, seasoned? Well, basically the more oil or grease you burn onto this thing, over time it builds layers and layers and layers, and eventually that the burnt layers of grease or oil, which really is carbon, liquid carbon, will actually make this into a non-stick cooking surface. Okay, so when somebody says that they have a seasoned cast iron skillet, they mean that they've burnt enough oil or cooked in it over time enough so that it became non-stick. Okay, so while this thing gets really hot, I won't put the steaks on there till it's like smoking hot. I'm gonna give you a little tip of how you know your steak's doneness. So what you wanna do is you wanna take your hand and just kind of let it hang there kind of flaccid. Okay, and see this little piece of flesh right there in between your index finger and your thumb? Right there, if I'm not doing anything with my hand and I'm just letting it hang there, if I push, that's the same feeling that I would get if I poked the steak and the steak was medium rare. Okay, now if I flex my hand out kind of medium strength, and again, I press that little bit of flesh right there, okay, that would be medium. And if I flared my hands out as much as it could go and I pressed there, that would be the same feeling that I would get if I poked the steak and it was well done. So you can see here the skillet is nice and hot. It's smoking at this point. So this is when I'm going to take my steak and put it on the skillet. Okay, now I did not put any oil in there because, well, there's fat on the steak and that fat is going to kind of melt down there and create the oil that I need. Okay, so I like, blue rare or very medium rare, so I'm not going to leave this on here very long. Now you'll notice I haven't put the chimichurri on yet. Okay, when I turn it over once, that's when I'm going to start putting the chimichurri on it. Alright, so if it looks like you're making a house fire in your house, you're doing the right thing. So I'm just going to flip these over. Okay, and this is when I'm going to add a nice layer of chimichurri. Alright, and there you have it, just 5 minutes per side, and you have perfectly medium rare ribeye steaks with a bell peppered chimichurri on it. It doesn't get any better than this in under 15 minutes. Join me next time for more episodes of On the Cutting Board. For more videos, recipes, and articles, visit foodchaintv.com. This program is brought to you in part by Kenmore. Cookmore.com. A dash of inspiration, a taste that's all yours.